So I've been using the Galaxy S10 for about 4 weeks now, and I'm still compiling my thoughts about this smartphone. So expect my long-term review sometime later. Now, I didn't want you guys to hang in until then for some content around this device, so I decided to focus on one of the key aspects of the S10. The cameras. Now, I'm also aware of Huawei's recently announced P30 Pro and its incredible camera system. I'm hoping to get my hands on the device soon, so if you're interested in a comparison between the S10 and the P30 Pro, let us know in the comments down below. Switching gears to the S10, recently I got a chance to test the cameras to its absolute best on my recent trip to the States, and it was a lot of fun exploring the setup, but at the same time also taking a closer look at the detail and evaluating things like color, low light performance, video quality as well. So let's take a look at that right after a message from our sponsor.
The new Razer Blade 15 is a machine for people who know exactly what they want. When you need a reliable keyboard and want custom lighting. When you need an accurate display and want insanely fast 144Hz refresh rate. When you need a portable machine and want a gorgeous, thin aluminum unibody in the world's smallest 15.6-inch gaming laptop. When you need powerful gaming hardware to truly dominate with GeForce RTX. The Razer Blade 15 when you need the power for anything you do and want nothing to hold you back. Check out the configuration you want down below.
Okay, so just to refresh your memory, the S10 has a standard wide-angle 12-megapixel sensor with a variable aperture mode that shifts between f1.5 and 2.4. Remember, it's the exact same setup found on the S9. Then it has a 12-megapixel telephoto lens with an f2.4 aperture, and it's 2 times the optical zoom range of a standard wide-angle lens. The interesting addition to the S10 this year is the 16-megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens with a field of view of 123 degrees. We first saw this feature with LG's G series of phones, and I guess it was just a matter of time for Samsung and a few other brands to adapt this feature. Before I get into the results, I do want to quickly talk about the user interface. It's pretty simple and easy to get accustomed to. So you can quickly switch between different lenses by simply tapping on the respective ones. You can also switch between different modes like live focus, video, pro mode that gives you full control of the shutter speed, ISO, white balance, etc. There are also some slow motion capabilities built into the S10, and it's very fast in switching thanks to the powerful specs baked in. There are also some filters added to the app, which I think is completely pointless in my opinion, but you may like them, especially if you're into selfies and things like beauty mode. Shot suggestions is also a really cool feature added to the S10. It's essentially on-screen guides to help you line up for straight compositions. There's also scene optimizer that identifies certain subjects in the background and it optimizes the color for that particular subject. I personally ended up turning it off because I wanted to get the true representation coming out of these sensors. Now, I shot all of these photos in auto mode with HDR turned on, and as you can see, it's pretty darn impressive in well-lit situations. For example, in this shot, the colors are nice and vibrant, not super saturated. There is a good balance between the highlights and the shadows, thanks to HDR, of course. If you're into food photography, the S10 shouldn't disappoint you again. It does a really good job capturing colors and honestly portraying what it looks like in real life. However, low light performance isn't really the S10's forte. As you can see, the detail completely falls apart around the branches. It also does tend to soften the image as well, but on a good note, it still manages to capture true to life colors. The additional wide-angle lens is by far my favorite feature on the S10. It comes in really useful in certain situations, especially if you need to get a lot of subjects in the frame. I mean, take a look at this shot. I recently got the chance to watch a hockey game and I wanted to share the ambience or the excitement level in the arena, and I was able to do that with the S10, and the result looked absolutely spectacular. Here's another first-person perspective of me go-karting, and again, by taking advantage of the ultra-wide-angle lens, it just really gives you a cool perspective, and I loved it. Now, the telephoto lens can be used to take interesting abstract images if you're looking for good symmetry, and the best part is that you still get great dynamic range and color rendition, so nothing to complain here. It still manages to keep consistent colors as well as detail, but albeit Samsung's post-processing on all of these photos are a tad aggressive in my opinion, but really if you need that extra reach, especially with sports photography, the extra telephoto lens could be an awesome feature to take advantage of. Here's the same shot with the standard wide-angle lens, and boom, ultra-wide. And I took these in a matter of seconds, which is just impossible with a traditional DSLR or mirrorless camera. Then there's macro shooting, and it's absolutely incredible. I use the telephoto lens to get as close as possible to the subject, and the results, as you can see, are quite amazing. The subject is in focus, the colors are really nice, and this is something that you really can't achieve with a single lens setup on a smartphone, unless and until if you decide to go for third-party lens mounting accessories. All right, so I also wanted to compare the S10 to my Pixel 3 to see how it actually does. And the one thing that I found in common throughout this comparison is the fact that the Pixel just takes the edge in the detail department compared to the S10. But again, that's only if you're pixel peeping. In low light scenarios, it's a hard pick to be honest, because on one hand, the Pixel is a bit sharper, but the S10 is more true to life in terms of colors. Speaking of colors, that's another aspect that I really wanted to talk about, because the S10 leans towards more on a neutral side, which is, either cooler or warmer. Again, it's a hit or miss depending on the situation, whereas the Pixel, again, it takes the lead with detail, and in some cases, it just processes the image, especially in the colors when it comes to the greens and the purples, because it starts to increase it starts to add a lot more magenta to the image in some cases as well. So again, I'm glad that there are third-party photo apps that can be used to edit these photos and kind of, enhance it the way you want it to look. But if you're looking for the best colors out of the box, the S10 takes the edge here. But let us know what you prefer in the comments down below. I also got a chance to test portrait mode on both devices. Samsung calls it live focus, which allows you to adjust the blur in the background in real time, which is pretty neat. And as you can see, both cameras look pretty good. Personally, I like the field of view of the S10 as it's not super close to the subject compared to the Pixel that actually crops into the sensor to achieve the effect. Here's another shot with good lighting. I want to say that edge detection still has a long way to go on both cameras, but I still do like the image coming out of the Pixel. The front-facing cameras are great on both devices. The S10 likes overexposing just a bit, and it also likes to smoothen my face by like 10%, which may or may not be a good thing, whereas the Pixel just takes the edge here since, it has two front-facing cameras, one which gets you the traditional wide angle and an ultra-wide angle lens as well, and it captures great detail, dynamic range, and colors as well. I also got a chance to test out Nightscape on the Pixel 3 to see how it actually plays out compared to the S10. And as you can see, there's clearly a huge difference between the two. The S10 does have a night mode built inside the scene optimizer feature, but it only turns on when it detects that the subject is in pitch black. So there isn't a dedicated night mode like what you'd find on the Pixel. And as you can see, the colors and the detail are just more better on the Pixel compared to the S10. So this is the rear-facing video test on both these devices. And as you can tell, or probably see, the Pixel 3 is more leaning towards a cooler tone, whereas the Galaxy S10 is more true to life and natural because it's kind of really beautiful out here in New York City. So that's another thing. Also, it's also a good representation on what the microphone sounds like. The Pixel is a little bit more muted, whereas the Galaxy S10 actually captures a bit more of the ambient noise. Again, it's more of a subjective opinion, but I want to know your thoughts about that in the comments. Lastly, I do want to cover on the crop factor. So the Pixel 3 crops in a little bit on the sensor, which could be a limitation for some of you out there, whereas the Galaxy S10 has the ability to switch between the ultra wide angle lens as well as the telephoto and the wide angle lens. But do keep in mind that can only be done when you're shooting in 1080p and 4K at 30 frames per second. You can't do it in 4K at 60p. Moving over to the front-facing camera test, this is exactly what you're going to be getting out of the box without any filters or anything applied. I feel like the microphone on the Pixel is just a bit muted. In terms of dynamic range, the S10 steals the show here. I think the Pixel is just a bit more overexposed. I mean, the Galaxy S10 has a good balance between the highlights and the shadows. And you also get, again, more true to life image compared to the Pixel. So when it comes to video quality overall, I'd go with the S10 any time of the day.
You gotta appreciate the smooth and engaging sound with mass drop and HiFiMan HE4XX planar magnetic headphones that sound amazing without a fancy amp and are built to satisfy your ears and not destroy your wallet. Check out the drop down below.
So this brings us to the conclusion, and honestly, I really enjoyed my time playing around with the S10 and the cameras, of course. Now, do I see myself taking advantage of all three lenses? Absolutely, because having that ultra wide angle lens is so awesome, especially if you want to capture something interesting, especially when it comes to different events. If you're someone who likes adventure photography, then I think the ultra wide angle lens is absolutely a great implementation because you don't have to worry about carrying a mirrorless camera or DSLR camera with multiple lenses because you have all of those three implemented in a single package. Sure, it doesn't have the best quality in the detail department, but honestly, for social media and sharing pictures online, for that kind of stuff, it'll get the job done. That's what it is. So let me know what you guys think about the camera comparison, or I guess the quality coming out of the S10 in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts about it. And what are your expectations for a smartphone, especially in 2019, in the camera department? Do you prefer having these 3 lenses, or are you just okay with an ultra wide angle lens and a standard wide angle lens? I want to know your thoughts about that in the comments. I'm Igor with Hardware Canucks. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out some relevant content over here. Subscribe to our Boot Sequence channel. I'm signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next one.